Welcome to Zenith Media Group. If you enjoy this production, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And consider supporting us on Ko-fi at the link below.
Incident code name Cloverfield. File 4379. 1010 Winds broadcast. Clip 1. Approximately 12:40 hours on May 23rd, 2008.
Hello and good evening, New York. I'm Blake Howard, here with my colleague Kira Wilkins. You're listening to 1010 Winds, all news, all the time. It is a little after 12:40 a.m. on the East Coast, and this is your nightly news wrap-up. In sports news, New York Yankees right-hander Chien-Ming Wang is still recovering, say team coaches, after an MRI following Sunday's game against the Mets revealed a muscle strain in his right leg. Wang is scheduled to play in this Saturday's game against the Mariners, but team manager Joe Girardi says he would like to see how Wang responds to fielding drills before making a final decision. Girardi says Wang's return to the field could be pushed back to Sunday if there are any further complications.
Oil prices are projected to soar in the near future as the price for a barrel of crude has hit a whopping all-time high of $133. These costs are felt at the gas pump, with gas prices reaching a record $4.57 in Lower Manhattan yesterday. Prospects of $5 gallons are likely, with diesel already selling for $5.39 a gallon. Wholesale gasoline has jumped in price by 42% since last summer, raising concerns that prices at the pump may rise even higher by this summer. $7 gallons here in Manhattan? It could be more likely than you think.
Movie star Shia LaBeouf, who plays a leading role alongside Harrison Ford in this year's film Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, says the adventure film is quite different from last year's Transformers. He's had to learn a whole new set of skills, the actor says, including fencing and riding a motorcycle. Director George Lucas denies rumors that LaBeouf's character will be the focus of a fifth franchise film, stating, quote, "You can't have an Indiana Jones film without Indiana Jones." The film released in theaters today, marking the return of Ford's iconic character after 19 years. You're listening to 1010 Winds. I'm Blake Howard. We're returning to the air now, and we're not quite sure what just happened, but we do have reports coming in from New York Harbor. Kira, what are we hearing about that frightening shaking we just felt?
That's right, Blake. Our studio is located in Lower Manhattan, where we just felt some sort of shaking and rumbling, almost like a small earthquake. We're receiving reports from sources at the Port Authority that an oil tanker in New York Harbor has exploded just off the island of Manhattan. We do not have reports of casualties at this time. The explosion was quite loud and produced enough shaking to briefly cause the electricity to flicker in Lower Manhattan.
There is no word yet as to the cause of the explosion which just took place in the harbor. However, the Port Authority is saying there is no indication of terrorist activity at this time. Of course, we all remember the alleged terrorist attack on an oil rig back in December off the coast of Connecticut, that incident having been pinned on an environmental extremist group. The ship which exploded in New York Harbor just a few moments ago, we're told, is owned by the same company as the oil rig which was destroyed off the coast in December. However, we must reiterate that there are no indications of terror-related activity at this time, and this detail is being treated as a coincidence at present. We'll have more updates as the situation becomes clear.
We have a spokesman for the Tagruato Corporation calling in now. His name is Kaito Tanaka. The Tagruato Corporation is the company which owns the oil tanker which just exploded in the New York harbor. Hello, Mr. Tanaka? What can you tell us about this incident which just unfolded?
Good evening, Kira and Blacko. The Tagruato Corporation extends its condolences to the families of the 15 crew members of the ship. The ship, the Mizumi Maru, is a tanker vessel which carries crude oil from our offshore drilling platforms to ports in New York and New Jersey, where the oil is then transferred to refineries for sale on the American market. We have launched a formal investigation, but preliminary analysis indicates a possible sabotage by environmental terrorists.
On that note, Mr. Tanaka, your company has recently been the target of a group called Tidal Wave, or The Wave. The Wave, according to your company, was responsible for the destruction of the Chuai Station offshore oil rig back in December. They claim the offshore rig in question was not even an oil rig at all, and hinted that your company harbors a much darker secret. What do you make of the relations between your company and this activist group known as The Wave?
We have been pursuing legal action against the Wave in courts in America as well as in Japan for libel and slander regarding our many products and subsidiaries. We believe the courts will side with us on this matter. If an investigation reveals any involvement from the Wave in tonight's explosion aboard the Mizumi Maru, we will pursue murder charges. The Wave are no good terrorists who lie and try to smear our good company, and they must be stopped.
Is there any truth to the claims that the Chuai Station rig was drilling for something other than just oil? There's a theory going around that perhaps the Chuai Station was actually extracting a substance used as an ingredient in one of your company's products, a frozen drink known as Slusho. What do you make of this idea?
These are baseless conspiracy theories. The Chuai Station off the coast of Connecticut was merely an oil rig, nothing more, and claims to the contrary have no basis in facts. Slusho is a delicious frozen drink enjoyed by people of all ages, and it has no relation to our offshore drilling operations. Now, if you please, I am here to talk about the incident tonight aboard the Mizumi Maru. I am not here to discuss ridiculous conspiracy theories about Slusho.
Why is the Wave so vehemently opposed to your Slusho product then? You have to admit, something isn't adding up here. Why would an environmental group even care about a frozen drink product if your company is drilling for oil in the ocean? The Wave has also denied any responsibility for the supposed attack against the Chuai Station rig. So what makes you think they were responsible for tonight's explosion aboard the Mizumi Maru?
I will not stand for this line of questioning. Tagruato would like to reiterate our deepest condolences to the families of the 15 crew members of the Mizumi Maru, and as for the terrorists known as the Wave, we shall see them in court. And as for you, Mr. Howard, should you continue these implications on your broadcast, we may take a legal action against your radio station as well.
Just one more question, if I may. I'd like to ask you about a marine biologist who worked for your company, Kazui Ichigawa. The Wave alleges that Mr. Ichigawa made a, quote, significant discovery near the doomed Chuai station merely weeks before its destruction. Mr. Ichigawa was subsequently killed by a gas explosion at his home. There are a lot of rumors regarding your company's potential involvement and the nature of his discovery. What can you say to put minds at ease regarding Mr. Ichigawa's unfortunate death? Mr. Tanaka, are you there? Mr. Tanaka?
He hung up on us.
Okay, that was Kaito Tanaka, ladies and gentlemen, a spokesman for the Japanese company Tagruato Corporation. You're listening to 1010 Wins. We are providing continuing coverage of an explosion which rocked New York Harbor, the blast having occurred aboard an oil tanker just off the island of Manhattan. The explosion was of considerable size, knocking out power momentarily as the ground rumbled from the shockwave. Kira, what more do we know?
The United States Coast Guard is on the scene now, where it is being reported that the Statue of Liberty has apparently been damaged. We do not know the nature of this damage, but it is likely a result of the nearby explosion from that tanker vessel. The Staten Island ferry has suspended its operation as of a few minutes ago, and it is not known at this time when the ferry will resume operations. As for the tanker, the Mizumi Maru, the ship is reportedly capsized in the harbor, and the Coast Guard is securing the harbor with the help of boats from the New York Police Department. Police are saying that the area of Lower Manhattan around Battery Park should be avoided at the moment, as it is presently the scene of an ongoing police operation. The Brooklyn Battery Tunnel is also closed at this time, with traffic being redirected to the Brooklyn Bridge until further notice. We've tried reaching out to the United States Coast Guard and the Port Authority Police Department for comment, but we are unable to reach anybody at this time. What was that?
I don't know, Kira. For those listening, something has just seemingly rattled our building. We're not quite sure what that was, but we will have information for you as soon as it comes in.
A second explosion. A second explosion.
A what?
A second explosion just occurred around Battery Park.
Do we have confirmation on that?
Yeah, we just got a call from upstairs. Apparently the fireball is visible from our windows here.
All right, okay. At this point, we urge our listeners to remain calm, as there was apparently a second explosion just now in the area of Battery Park. Jesse, do we know if this was related to the oil tanker incident we've been following?
Is this related to the oil tanker? Doesn't appear to be, no. Separate event.
Okay, so another explosion, apparently separate from the first one, has just occurred in or around Battery Park. If you're in the area, we urge you to remain calm and exit the area in a swift but orderly manner. If you witnessed what just happened, we're interested in hearing from you. But of course, your safety should take priority. You can call our studio at the phone number 212-315-7068.
People upstairs say it looks like the explosion came from the area of City Hall. Whole building's been blown up.
Oh my gosh. Terrorism?
Looks like it, yeah.
We'll go to the phones now, where we have a call coming in from an eyewitness to the second explosion. Sam Spencer is on the phone with us. Sam, hello. Can you tell us what you saw?
Hi, Blake. Hi, Kira. It was an absolutely massive blast. I mean, the fireball rose at least 100 feet or so in the air. It was huge. We all started running away, and debris was falling around us. It was just total chaos. There's police and firemen rushing to the scene right now. It's just total chaos here, Blake. There's no other way to describe it.
Hi, Sam. It's Kara Wilkins here. We're hearing that the explosion took place near City Hall. Is that right?
I don't know. Somewhere in that area, I guess. I'm a few blocks away. I can't see where the blast was from where I am now. All I saw was this gigantic fireball rising up over the buildings. It was huge. We're all terrified. Whatever is going on, it's something big.
It's been about 13 years ago now that the Oklahoma City bombing occurred, and if this explosion did indeed target City Hall, like our early reports suggest, then it of course conjures up memories of that horrific event.
Oh my God! Oh no!
Sam, what's happening?
Talk to us if you can, Sam. Are you all right?
It came down. It just collapsed.
What collapsed, Sam?
The Woolworth building. I don't know. It just fell. There's dust. Everybody's running. Oh my God.
The Woolworth building?
The Woolworth building, of course, is a skyscraper which is located in Lower Manhattan, right nearby to City Hall. Sam, was this a result of the explosion that happened there?
I saw it. It's huge. I think it's alive.
This, of course, raises substantial fears of an ongoing terrorist attack happening now in the city. Explosions, collapsing skyscrapers. I hate to say it, Kira, but this is all hitting a bit too close to home for us in New York. It's been less than 7 years since the 9/11 attacks and all the destruction and carnage we witnessed here on that fateful day.
You're right, Blake. It does unfortunately remind us very much of those horrific events. I was in college at the time. It was before my tenure here at 1010 Winds. But as I understand, you were here reporting on 9/11. Is that right?
That's right, Kira. I had the unique experience of reporting from the streets during those events. Much like Sam tonight, I remember running through the city streets as the World Trade Center towers collapsed and all that dust and the debris clouds. Horrible memories were made that day, and most certainly tonight as well, as we grapple with what is undoubtedly another terrible act of terrorism.
No, it's alive. You didn't hear me. I said it's alive.
Who is alive? Sam? Is somebody in need of help?
No. I mean the thing that brought down the building. It is alive. I saw it.
What exactly did you see, Sam?
I don't know. I don't know what it was, but I swear to God, I just saw a giant tail or something. It's huge, and it's alive.
Like an animal?
Yes, like an animal. A damn big one, too.
Sam, we're gonna need you to calm down. What hit the building, Sam? Was it an airplane, or a missile, or...
Like I said, it was a giant animal of some kind. Had a big-ass tail. It's a huge stomping feet.
Does that make sense to you?
I don't know. I think he's just panicked.
I know what I saw, damn it. It was like a monster. A giant one. I know how it sounds, but a giant monster is stomping its way through the city right now. There's really no other way to describe it.
Sam, people have been seriously hurt tonight. This is no time for practical jokes or prank calls. We're going to let you go now. Thanks for calling in.
How unbelievable that people would take a time like this as their chance to try to get over on others. Do we have any more information?
Apparently it has been confirmed now that the Woolworth building has indeed collapsed. This information coming via the fire department just a moment ago. We do not know at this time what exactly caused the Woolworth building to collapse, whether it was stricken by a plane like we saw on 9/11, or if it was bombed, or perhaps if it was structurally weakened by the explosion at City Hall. We do not know. Again, if you are in the area, we advise you please leave and do not interfere with emergency services. If you are injured, please report to a hospital at once.
We have another caller now. We have on the line Lucas Morgan, who says he was to the south of City Hall when these events took place. Hello, Lucas. First of all, are you okay?
I'm okay. I'm alright, Kira. Thanks for asking.
What did you see, Lucas?
I saw an explosion. I saw a really big fireball, and I saw everybody running away, and then I saw... I don't know how to describe it. Something huge hit the building.
Was it a plane, Lucas, or something else?
No. It wasn't a plane. It did roar, though. I guess it sounded like a big jet, but... No. It definitely wasn't a plane. No.
What do you mean, it's roared?
I mean, like a lion. You know, like you're at a zoo and a lion roars. It sounded kind of like that. Like a giant animal of some kind.
Oh, for God's sake. Lucas, we've already had one of these kinds of calls tonight. Are you friends with Sam?
Sam? Sam who? No. What?
People have died tonight, Lucas, and we will not stand for this disrespect on our program. Either stick to the facts, or we'll hang up.
I'm trying to. I'm telling you, whatever it was huge, and it was moving. I could feel the tremors in the ground from it walking around.
All right, we've ended our call with Lucas. I don't know what has gone into people tonight, Blake. Our city is under attack once again, and yet this time people seem to be treating it like some sort of joke. It's disgusting behavior.
It truly is, Kira. It sickens my soul that there could be hundreds, maybe thousands of casualties from tonight's events, and these are the kinds of calls we have to sift through. We're going to bring in Sergeant Mason Barnes of the NYPD. He's a longtime friend of 1010 Wins and a trusted source within the police department. Sergeant Barnes, what can you tell us?
Yeah, good evening, Blake and Kira, although it seems like it's going to be a horrible night ahead. We have resources pouring into the city from all 5 boroughs and from New Jersey, but this is truly an all-hands-on-deck situation we're dealing with here.
Do we have any indication of who is behind this yet, Sergeant? Is there any claim of responsibility or any threats made against this city recently?
Not that I'm aware of, but then again, we didn't receive much warning before 9/11 either. Given what we've learned in our counterterrorism seminars that we've had since 9/11, I would say that Al-Qaeda is a likely suspect once again. It does fit their style in terms of the sheer scale of events and the coordinated, almost simultaneous nature of the attacks.
We were talking earlier, in regards to the tanker ship explosion, that it may have been the result of action by an environmentalist terror group known as the Wave. How likely is that, in your estimation?
Not very likely, I don't think. The Wave, as we've seen, has a specific beef with the Tagruato Corporation. While they have managed to destroy a deep-sea oil rig off the coast, we've not seen any actions from them that indicate the larger capability for larger coordinated attacks like this. Nothing so far that indicates even an interest in deliberately targeting civilians at scale. We're almost certainly looking at an international angle for what we're seeing unfold tonight. Other possibilities include certain Iranian proxy groups, maybe someone tied to Saddam Hussein. I mean, this could be in retaliation for the war in Iraq, as far as we all know. But no, I don't think the Wave were behind this. Personally, I'd start by asking who has demonstrated these kinds of capabilities before. That, in my mind, points to Al-Qaeda as our most likely suspect.
What should people do if they're in Lower Manhattan where these attacks have taken place?
Well, obviously, the first thing they should do is to not be in the area. I'd say this for you listeners. If you are near the scene of the attacks, please vacate the area in a calm but very quick manner. The Brooklyn Bridge is open and many people are using it to evacuate the area on foot. The Brooklyn Battery Tunnel is closed until further notice and should be avoided. We're hearing reports from the MTA that the 7th Avenue Express is currently out of service, as are the Lexington Avenue Express and the Broadway Express. If anyone has any questions as to which stations are operable, please dial the non-emergency 311 line and select option 3, or call the Metro Transit Authority at 877-690-5116. If you'd like to donate blood to help the victims of these attacks, please call the American Red Cross at 877-733-2767. If you are injured and able to walk, please go to a hospital. If you are not able to walk or drive on your own, please call 911.
Sergeant Barnes, thank you. Stay safe tonight.
You too, Blake and Kira. Stay safe, New York.
Incident code name Cloverfield. File 4380. 1010 Winds Broadcast. Clip 2. Approximately 0156 on May 23rd, 2008.
Disturbing reports are coming in of damaged structures along Broadway, these including the iconic Trinity Church and One Liberty Plaza. There are unconfirmed reports that St. Paul's Chapel, which famously survived the 9/11 attacks, has also been damaged, as well as portions of Zuccotti Park. We do not know how exactly these structures came to be damaged or how bad the damage is. The FDNY, which is evaluating infrastructure in Lower Manhattan, says it's possible that gas lines may have been ruptured, which could be a contributing factor in some of these structures being damaged. Blake, I understand we have a colleague in that area. What more do we know at this time?
We do, Kira. Our affiliate station, ABC News Radio, has a helicopter airborne over Lower Manhattan currently, carrying journalist Brian Marshall as they try to get a clearer picture of exactly what is happening. We've got Brian on the phone with us from the chopper now. Brian, can you hear us? What are you seeing from up there?
Yeah, I can hear you, Blake. We're flying above East Village right now, headed southbound along the East River, and the scene from up here is just... It's nothing short of horrifying, Blake. There's smoke rising up above Lower Manhattan, a scene eerily reminiscent of September 11th, and there are scattered fires burning in structures. The red flashing of fire truck lights are glowing through the smoke, we hear police sirens, and the destruction is just unimaginable. What's peculiar is the fires and smoke appear to be formed almost in a line, headed northward from Battery Park up Broadway.
Brian, it's Kara Wilkins here. Does it look to you like the terrorists are sticking to Broadway, or do you see damage elsewhere?
From what I'm seeing, it looks like maybe they attacked a gas main that was ruptured along Broadway. If so, this would appear to be an attack on the city's infrastructure, but it's far too early to say with any certainty yet.
What was that sound, Brian?
Blake, I'm not sure what that sound was, but our pilot is shining a spotlight down at the Brooklyn Bridge right now, and what we're seeing is a surreal sight. The bridge itself appears to have suffered some kind of catastrophic damage. I'm not seeing any indication that it was bombed, however, so I'm not quite sure how it came to be in this state. There's something moving in the water, though, in the East River. Something just struck our helicopter! We're going down!
We seem to have lost connection with Brian and the ABC chopper. We're working to get details on what exactly has transpired. However, just before losing connection, Brian mentioned that the Brooklyn Bridge has now sustained significant damage as well. There is destruction on an unprecedented scale in Lower Manhattan as these terrorist events continue to grip the city. Blake, what more are we hearing?
Kira, we're hearing now that the New York National Guard is mobilized in response to the terrorist mayhem that is unfolding in the city presently. Units from Fort Hamilton in Brooklyn as well as Fort Dix in New Jersey have mobilized in response to the attacks in Manhattan. Governor Patterson has issued a state of emergency declaration effective for New York City. This information coming to us from the governor's press office. We have reached out to the New York Army National Guard, and we now have Colonel James Preston on the phone with us. Colonel Preston is an officer with the National Guard's 42nd Infantry Division, also known as the Rainbow Division. Colonel Preston, what do we know?
Hello, Blake. Hello, Kira. The 42nd Rainbow Infantry initiated its response to the events in New York around an hour and a half after the initial incident. We have soldiers on the streets currently who are closing down streets for military traffic, namely the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel and the Holler Tunnel. The large-scale aggressor, or LSA as we're calling it, emerged from New York Harbor around 45 minutes after midnight and began a trail of destruction beginning in Battery Park and moving in a north-northwesterly direction up Broadway. We're advising the public to evacuate the area of Manhattan south of 14th Street via the Manhattan Bridge, the Lincoln Tunnel, and the Williamsburg Bridge. It is our understanding that the Brooklyn Bridge has been destroyed by the large-scale aggressor and that the area should be avoided.
And what is a large-scale aggressor? Is that the name of the terrorist group that's attacking us, or is that some kind of military code term?
I'm not sure what you mean. These events are not related to terrorism as far as we can tell. The large-scale aggressor is what we're calling the massive quadrupedal creature, which is presently roaming the lower portion of Manhattan Island.
I'm sorry, Colonel Preston. Did you say a creature?
That is correct, Blake. The large-scale aggressor walks on 4 legs, with its front legs being considerably longer than its hind legs. It appears to be roughly 300 feet in height and approximately 1,200 feet in length. It seems to have emerged from New York Harbor near Battery Park, and its present location is near the Lower East Side of Manhattan. The origin of the large-scale aggressor remains unknown, and it is not reacting positively to our attempts at containment.
So, to be clear, There is no terrorist attack ongoing in the city at this time?
No, ma'am. This appears to be a far worse situation.
If you don't mind, Colonel, I'd like to add to the call an associate of ours at the NYPD, Sergeant Mason Barnes. We talked to Sergeant Barnes earlier in the night, and we have him on standby currently. Sergeant Barnes, are you there?
Yes, Blake, I am with you. I'm calling you from an NYPD command center established at Penn Station.
Sergeant Barnes, Colonel Preston was just describing to us a large creature which is apparently the cause of tonight's chaos and destruction. What more do you know by this point? Are these the facts on the ground as you know them?
Yeah, it's affirmative, Blake. We've been fielding calls for the past hour in regards to this event. We have over 400 eyewitnesses who are all saying the same thing. The creature is large, towering over many buildings in the city. It walks on 4 legs and has a hideous roar. Its skin, or hide, or whatever, appears to be tough and thick, impervious to small arms fire and munitions.
What is your protocol for an event of this type?
I'm sorry?
What sort of plan does the department have in place for the events that is happening tonight?
We don't have one, Kira.
What is the present course of action?
Kira, I'm going to shoot straight with you. We don't have a present course of action. Right now, our focus at the NYPD is to get people away from this thing and the areas it threatens. Our department is prepared for the worst of the worst. After 9/11, we trained for large-scale terrorist events. We planned for military attacks, and we've even planned for attacks from weapons of mass destruction, but what we're seeing tonight goes far beyond the scope of anything that we have ever even thought to prepare for. Quite simply, there is no protocol or course of action for a giant monster rampaging around the city.
Colonel Preston, what do you say about the National Guard's response?
I don't have a different answer, Blake. The U.S. military and the New York Army National Guard have prepared for everything up to and including an outright invasion by hostile forces. But even then, such contingency plans have always assumed a conventional enemy, an enemy that is, well, human.
What is being done right now to control the situation?
Evacuation. Other than that, we're shooting everything we've got and hoping we can bring this thing down before we run out of ammunition. So far, we don't appear to be having much luck.
What is the biggest challenge you are facing right now?
You mean other than the 300-foot-tall monster of incomprehensible horror?
Shock and confusion, Blake. What we're seeing tonight is simply horrific beyond the scope of the imagination. 43 officers have handed in their badges so far tonight. 3 have even committed suicide with their service weapons. Civilians are hysterical and paralyzed with panic attacks. The psychological impact alone is going to scar this city for years to come. That is, if anybody survives to deal with the aftermath. The situation is bleak to an extent that is impossible to fathom. I have yet to personally see the creature myself, but those coming back to me will clearly never be the same after tonight. I've seen photos, though, and I've heard it scream, and I don't know how I'll ever sleep again. That's the biggest challenge, Blake, the sheer horror. There aren't enough therapists in the country for what this city is going to need, and certainly none trained to face what we've had to deal with.
I fought in Iraq both times. I've seen my friends ripped apart by explosions. I've smelled the stench of death itself. I've tasted blood in the air. I've witnessed things that still give me nightmares to this day. The photos and videos I've seen coming out of Manhattan tonight are like nothing I have ever seen. It's like a drug-fueled Lovecraftian nightmare. If any of my men survive their mission tonight, they're going to have a hell of a time coping with life every day from here on out. May God bless the 42nd Infantry, but after what we've seen tonight, we're fairly certain there is no God. He certainly didn't have a damn thing to do with this mess.
Incident code name Cloverfield. File 4381. 1010 Winds Broadcast. Clip 3, approximately 02:15 on May 23rd, 2008.
You're listening to 1010 Winds. I'm Kara Wilkins in our studio, and we have Blake Howard reporting from West Village, where the large-scale aggressor, or LSA, was last spotted no more than 10 minutes ago. Joining us via satellite call, we have Professor James Anderson, PhD in Marine Biology from Northeastern University. On the phone, we also have Gabriel Hart, a professor of physics from Massachusetts Institute of Technology. If you're just now joining us, we are covering the ongoing attack by the LSA in New York City, specifically Manhattan. Professors Anderson and Hart, what can we assume about this large-scale aggressor, given what we know so far?
Well, first of all, I would call into question the moniker of large-scale aggressor. I don't think it intends to be aggressive at all, actually. Its seemingly random and chaotic movements through the city seem to be aimless and confused, as if the creature doesn't quite know what it is doing. Based on this, I would venture to theorize that perhaps the critter is young and inexperienced, possibly looking for its mother or a food source.
So you think the LSA is a creature in its youth, you would say?
Almost certainly, Kira. I don't think it intends to harm us. It simply does not know what it is doing. Personally, I would love the opportunity to study such a magnificent creature up close and observe its behavior. I think we still have much to learn about our world, and such a specimen could provide valuable insight into life on this planet.
Well, that is, if the thing is even from this planet. I think it more likely, given the size of the creature and its physical traits, we could very well be looking at our first contact with a species from elsewhere. All we know so far is that it emerged from the ocean near New York. But who's to say how it got there?
I think we have to use reason, Professor Hart. Over 80% of the ocean is unexplored, and less than 1/1000% of the deep seabed has been directly observed. It's my position that we shouldn't rule out the possibility that this creature is actually of our own world.
Perhaps, but unless another specimen is observed, how can we be for certain without directly studying it? After all, more than 70% of the Earth's surface is ocean, and so if the creature did come here on, say, a comet or meteor, it is likely that such an event would strike the oceans.
I see your point, Professor Hart, but we have not even proven the existence of life within our own solar system, much less complex multicellular life, and certainly nothing of the size that we are seeing.
And your proposition is what? That a creature of this size has simply escaped detection until it suddenly appears on one of the world's largest cities?
I don't think that's a stretch of the imagination at all. If the creature typically resides on the deep seabed of the ocean, then it's more likely than not that it would have gone undiscovered. Even with its size, we are in no position to say that such a thing would have been seen before. We are but in our infancy when it comes to technological development and deep-sea exploration.
And so are we in our understanding of the universe, Professor Anderson. I don't think either of us are in a position to say for certain what the origins of this creature are. At the end of the day, both of us can only provide mere conjecture and theories. I am simply saying that I think all options should be explored until we can study the creature up close. Besides, perhaps neither of us are correct. Some of my colleagues believe in a third option, that maybe the creature isn't from this universe at all, be it Earth or space.
Elaborate on that, Professor Hart. Where else would it be from, if not from Earth or space?
Just as we are, as I said, infants in our understanding of space. And, just as Professor Anderson says, we are likewise infants in our understanding of the ocean. We are not even to that level when it comes to our understanding of physics, particularly of the quantum realm. It's equally likely that the creature is a visitor from another existence, another universe or dimension, if you will.
Now you're just sounding silly, and you wish to question me on the validity of the deep ocean theory?
As I said, we can debate this all night long. But ultimately, this can only be settled with direct study and observation. It is for that reason that I wish to condemn the military tonight in their strategy of shooting first and asking questions later. There are far bigger questions to be asked, which the destruction of this unique life form may forever erase the answers to.
Now we agree on something. I would even call into question the ethics of directly harming the creature, given its skittish youthfulness. Would we be justified in shooting at a puppy, even if the puppy is 100 feet tall and destroys buildings with an excited tail wag? I don't think so. I think the morality of the decision to attempt the killing of the creature is firmly in a dark zone, and the military's moniker of large-scale aggressor is nothing more than an attempt to whitewash the harsh truth that we are attempting to do harm to a baby.
What do you suggest the military do instead, then, Professor Anderson? Not to disagree with your point, but to play devil's advocate. There has been irreparable harm and loss of life inflicted by this creature's presence in Manhattan tonight. What should we be doing instead?
If the military really wants to drop bombs, I would suggest doing so in a sort of arc-like formation around the creature. A safe distance away so as to avoid harm, but close enough to frighten it and push it back out toward the sea. If the creature can be directed toward the sea once more and away from our cities, then we can send research vessels to follow it, track it, and perhaps find out where it originally came from.
Professor Anderson and Professor Hart, thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to go now to my co-host Blake Howard, who is currently at 11th Street and 6th Avenue, due north of Washington Square Park. Blake, what's going on there now?
It's a war zone here, Kira. The LSA is under fire from two directions, and it's lashing out and screaming this loud, horrid yell. The streets are choked with dust from the buildings that have partially collapsed amidst the chaos. It's hard to breathe, and even harder to hear. My ears are ringing from the constant gunfire. There are tanks in the streets of New York, Kira. It's unlike anything I've ever seen before, and let me tell you, this thing, it's hard to imagine. It's taller than most of the buildings here, and it stomps on some of the smaller structures like they're nothing. These are residential buildings mostly, and I can only hope the people here have evacuated, because there's not going to be much left of this neighborhood by the end of the night at this rate.
What can you tell us about the creature, seeing it up close like you are?
It's terrifying, Kira. It's the stuff nightmares are made of. It has these two long appendages protruding from its underside. I'm not sure what they are, but it's eating people, I think. I saw at least 3 or 4 people just disappear into those holes at the end of those appendages like they were being sucked up inside of the thing. I can't unsee that.
Where's the creature now?
It's moving northward into the Flatiron District and toward Madison Square Park. If you're near the Flatiron, you should be getting out of there, like now. I know the evacuation order is in effect south of 14th Street, but really I would say if you're south of the Empire State Building, then you should probably be on the move. The thing is moving deeper into Manhattan. I think it's following the movements of the people evacuating.
We've heard some unconfirmed reports of some kind of smaller creatures. Have you seen or heard anything about that?
Yeah, Kira, there appear to be some kind of small creatures that are falling off the body of the LSA. From soldiers I've talked to, they're calling these things HSP, or human-scale parasites. They're about the size of a large dog, they've got 6 legs, and they move very, very fast. I've seen a few soldiers go down due to these things, and let me tell you, they're nothing to mess with. They've got some vicious jaws and claws on them that can rip right through flesh like a hot knife in butter.
It sounds dangerous where you are, Blake. Is there anywhere else you can go?
That's a good idea, Kira. I'm going to go into a subway station. Maybe there I can even find people to interview. I'll be back with you later.
Incident code name Cloverfield, file 4382. 1010 Winds broadcast, clip 4. Approximately 0350 on May 23rd, 2008.
Kira, I'm at the Broadway 79th Street station now, considerably north of where I last reported from. I've come here with a group of people who have migrated northward from areas of lower Manhattan, and I've got a couple here with me who have done just that. Their names are Casey and Brian. Casey, Brian, please tell me, what have you seen and experienced tonight?
My best friend died. We were at a dinner party at the Aurora, Brooklyn with some friends. We felt the shaking, and the lights went out, so we went outside to see what was going on. We actually saw this thing come up out of the water. It was huge, absolutely massive, and we ran. We got across the Brooklyn Bridge right before it collapsed.
Naomi, my best friend, she fell into the water. It ate her. It ate her.
Yeah, a lot of people fell into the water when the bridge went down, and this thing, it just, scooped them up in its big jaws as it swam past.
Casey, could you tell us about your friend Naomi? What was she like?
Naomi was a good person. She had just got a new job at IBM. She was a sales rep, and she was loving her life. She has had 2 sons named Theo and Cody. They're 6 and 10 years old. Her dog, she has a dog named Akito. She loved him very much. He's a border collie. She loved animals and volunteered at a shelter on the weekends. She was a great person. We bonded over music. I actually met her at a concert. We were both fans of NSYNC. She loved Justin Timberlake and wanted to meet him, but she never got the chance. I don't know why this happened to her. She didn't deserve this.
Naomi sounds like she was a great friend. I'm sorry for your loss tonight. Kira, what are we hearing in the studio?
Blake, we have a phone call waiting for us from a man named Dominic Wright. He's a deacon at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. That's the big church on 112th Street in Manhattan. He has some words for us tonight as we grapple with what has to be an absolutely unprecedented tragedy in our city's history. Deacon Wright, what do you have to say tonight?
Hello, Kira. First of all, I would like to offer a short prayer as so many of us reel in sorrow for our losses on this tremendously bleak and horrible night. Unprecedented tragedy, like you said. Please join me, listeners, in a moment of prayer. Dear Lord, we offer to you our sick and injured. We give to you our faith and trust, and we seek your guidance as we navigate these tough times. Lord, we bow our heads and lift our hands in prayer tonight as we plead for this horrible night to end. We place our faith in you, O dear Lord, to look after and care for our beloved souls returned home to you tonight. May they meet you in the kingdom of heaven, their pain erased, their smiles returned. As for the rest of us, we pray you ease our suffering and heal our minds as we have suffered greatly from unspeakable horrors. On behalf of the city of New York, we pray to you. In the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you for that beautiful prayer, Deacon Wright. What are you doing tonight to help those in need?
Thank you, Kira. We at St. John's have opened our doors to the lost and needy, and a shelter space has been arranged for anyone who seeks refuge as our city faces unseen destruction. The great men and women of the New York Fire Department are here, and a makeshift medical triage and treatment center has been established within our walls. We've contacted the Red Cross, and we expect to have their support by sunrise. The police are here, and they're helping people connect with friends and loved ones in this time of crisis.
What is the safest way to reach the cathedral for those seeking shelter as they try to escape the danger?
Most people seem to be reaching us via the subway tunnels, Kira. The MTA has suspended train service as of about 2 or 3 hours ago, and people have been walking the tunnels to get here. Our cathedral is located at 112th Street and Amsterdam Avenue, and you can get close to us by taking the 6th, Broadway 7th, and 8th Avenue subway lines. You'll want to exit the tunnels at the Cathedral Parkway stations at 110th Street, and from there we're only a few blocks away.
Deacon Wright, thank you for that information. That was Dominic Wright, a clergyman of the Cathedral of St. John the Divine in Upper Manhattan, which is taking in people who have been displaced as a result of this crisis. There, you can find medical care and communication courtesy of the fire and police departments of New York City. The Red Cross is active, and according to Deacon Wright, that organization will be present at the cathedral within the next few hours. Deacon Wright, thank you for joining us. Speaking of the MTA, we have an engineer with an MTA on the phone with us right now. His name is Aaron Parker. Aaron, what advice do you have for those who are using the subway tunnels to escape danger tonight?
Well, look, I don't want to alarm people, but my honest advice, don't. Stay out of the subway tunnels and stick to surface streets. I know there's a lot of chaos happening above ground, but we've gotten word from my fellow engineers that a much worse danger could be present in the tunnels.
Deacon Wright was just telling us that many people have been traversing the tunnels on foot to move northward and escape the dangers on the surface. What are you hearing that tells you this may not be a good idea?
You know those things that have been coming off the big creature? The smaller creatures? We've got reports from MTA staff that those smaller things have gone underground into the tunnels. They're hunting using pack-like behavior, and they're picking people off inside the tunnels. One of my fellow engineers, a good man named Roger Carney, he was killed just a bit ago by a pack of these things roaming the Brooklyn 7th Avenue line.
That's one of the lines mentioned by Deacon Wright as a possible escape route. How credible are these reports?
They're confirmed, Kira. With all due respect to the Deacon, he isn't there to see these things. I've been in communication with engineers across the borough, and they've sighted packs of these smaller creatures in not just the Broadway 7th line, but also the 6th Avenue, Lexington Avenue, the Q, the R, and the W lines as well. We have to assume these things could be anywhere. They seem to be seeking cool, dark areas such as the tunnels, and the people cramming themselves down there are doing little more than offering themselves up as easy meals.
Jesse, which tunnel is Blake in?
He reported that he's in the Broadway 7th Avenue line. Last we heard, he's just past the 79th Street station on the west side.
Aaron, I'm going to have to let you go. I have a colleague in one of the tunnels you mentioned. I'm going to have to give him a heads up.
That would be wise, Kira. Stay safe tonight.
Blake, can you hear me? Report in if you're able to.
Yeah, I can hear you, Kira. I'm just past the 79th Street station on the west side.
I was just talking with an MTA engineer, and he says you're going to want to leave the tunnels. Those parasites you reported on earlier, apparently they're traveling in packs and hunting people down there. What's your situation? Can you see anything where you are?
I can't see anything, Kira, but I can hear them, I think. We're some distance away from the next station. I believe that's 86th Street that we'll be coming up on next, and we just passed 79th.
Turn back towards the 79th if you can, and exit the tunnels. Take surface streets towards St. John the Divine.
All right. Everybody that's following me, we're turning back around. It isn't safe down here. Kira, I think the parasites are already here. I hear a lot of them.
Is it safe to turn around?
Get off me! Get these things the hell off me! Help! Help!
Blake? What's going on? Blake? Talk to me if you can.
They're attacking me! Somebody help me! No, we can't go this way! Back the way we were going! Make a run for it! Run!
Blake? Are you all right?
I'm alive, Kira. We tried to turn around, but they were all over. We're going north again now, towards 86th Street. We'll get out there.
Are you injured, Blake?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm all scratched up and bleeding. Some people fought the things off, though. I think I'll be all right.
That's Blake Howard, ladies and gentlemen. If you're just tuning in, Blake has just survived a horrifying ordeal. An attack from those dog-sized parasite-like creatures which have been falling off from the larger creature. If you're in the subway tunnels like Blake is, please do as he is presently doing and exit those tunnels as quickly as possible. We know how dangerous it is on the surface, but it seems like that may in fact be the safer option.
Incident code name Cloverfield. File 4383. 1010 Winds Broadcast. Clip 5. Approximately 0525 on May 23rd, 2008.
For those of you just tuning in, this is 1010 Winds, and I'm Kira Wilkins. My colleague Blake Howard is on the ground in Manhattan as a large, gigantic creature of unknown origin is wreaking havoc in the streets. Meanwhile, in the subway tunnels below, smaller creatures, apparently some form of parasites living in the body of the larger creature, have sought out the cool, dark tunnels as their new hunting grounds. Blake had the misfortune of being in one of those tunnels and was attacked by a pack of these small creatures. He survived, and word has it, has just reached the Cathedral of St. John the Divine, where he is receiving medical treatment for his injuries. Blake, it's Kira. Can you hear me?
Kira, I'm feeling a bit lightheaded and dizzy. There are medics here, and they're tending to my wounds now. They're cleaning the wounds. Brave New York paramedics. They're doing what they can to help people. I don't. I'm not feeling so great.
Blake, try and lie down if you can and relax. Okay? Tell us what's going on there at the cathedral.
There paramedics are treating people. The clergy, they're praying with people, offering moral support. The police are trying to reach out to people's loved ones. But the phone lines they're all Kira, I don't know.
What is it, Blake? Do you need to rest? Blake? What was that? Blake, can you still hear me?
Kira? It's Ryan here. Blake just... Jesus. I don't know how to describe it. She just exploded.
For those listening, Ryan is the audio engineer who was with Blake as he reports from the field. Ryan, what do you mean? Is Blake okay?
Hell no, he isn't okay. He's dead. Kira, Blake is gone. His body, like his midsection, it just began to pulse and throb, and then a moment or two later, he just pop. He exploded. I don't know what else to tell you. Blake is dead.
You're saying he exploded? Describe what happened, please.
I don't know how else to describe it that would be appropriate for us to air. It was incredibly graphic. I'm covered in his goddamned blood. He's just a red, wet mass now, Kira. I can't do this. I've seen too much goddamn shit tonight. I'm done. I quit.
That was, Ryan Weber, our audio engineer, who just reported to us the tragic loss of my colleague, Blake Howard. I apologize to our listeners for Ryan's language on the air. He's not a professional reporter. He is just a sound technician. Ryan, please take care.
Incident code name Cloverfield. File 4384. 1010 Winds Broadcast. Clip 6. Approximately 0445 on May 23rd, 2008.
This is 1010 Winds. I'm Kara Wilkins reporting live from our studio in Hudson Square, Lower Manhattan. New York City is in shock and panic tonight as a large, monstrous creature of unknown origin began a frenzy of destruction around 4 hours ago. The public is shocked and confused, horrified by the creature as a full-blown, citywide panic has set in. The military mobilized to the streets with automatic weapons and explosive munitions in a vain attempt to bring the havoc to an end. Unprecedented carnage the world has never seen before has brought our sleepless city to a halt. Public services have been rendered unable to operate. The MTA says there are no plans to resume subway service at this time. Critical infrastructure has been shuttered or even destroyed. The Brooklyn Battery Tunnel is now a vital military transit point into the besieged Manhattan borough. The Brooklyn Bridge now sits as a twisted pile of rubble at the bottom of the East River. City Hall, the Woolworth Building, Trinity Church, St. Paul Chapel, all reduced to rubble tonight. Completely gone. Zuccotti Park, Times Square, the NYU campus, and more are heavily damaged. Up to Columbus Circle and the surrounding areas, scattered fire burns as damaged gas infrastructure causes sporadic explosions around the city. The skyline is a total mess. The city is on its knees, and Lady Liberty stands without a head in New York Harbor, where this chaos all began just a few hours ago. If you're just joining us, we have some breaking news. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to 1010 Winds, and I'm Kira Wilkins. The United States Air Force has, within the past few minutes, just announced new measures to combat the so-called large-scale aggressor and its many human-scale parasites, which have turned Manhattan into a scene of unprecedented carnage. Brigadier General Liam Rose of the Air National Guard says the entirety of the force has been activated to federal service by President Bush tonight as the situation develops. According to General Rose, the Pentagon has reportedly enacted a protocol known as Hammerdown in response to the rampage of the LSA. We're joined now by Colonel Owen Newman of the New York Air National Guard's 174th Attack Wing out of Syracuse. Colonel Newman, tell us more about this so-called Hammerdown protocol.
Yes, ma'am. The Hammerdown protocol, as I have been informed, was drawn up by senior officers at the Pentagon in response to tonight's events. Hammerdown is described by top officials as a scorched earth airstrike campaign designed to use heavy ordnance to, essentially, carpet bomb Manhattan in an attempt to eradicate the LSA and its HSP parasites.
When, where, and how will Hammerdown take place, Colonel Newman? What is the scope of this mission? When will it commence? And what types of platforms and munitions are expected to be used?
The scope of the mission involves the boroughs of Manhattan south of 110th Street, Kira. Around 80% of the island is to be, essentially, carpet bombed. We have approximately 2 hours until mission go, at which time the city's civil defense sirens will sound off to warn people of the impending air raid. In these final 2 hours leading up to Hammerdown, we'll utilize UH-1 Hueys and UH-60 Blackhawk helicopters to airlift civilians from the danger zone and into safer areas of the city and surrounding areas. One of these helicopters will be headed your way, Kira. You'd serve yourself well to get onto that chopper when it arrives.
Understood, Colonel. For now, let's discuss the type of weapons and platforms the Air Force and Air National Guard intend to utilize this morning as part of the Hammerdown protocol. What can you tell us about the aircraft and ordnance types to be deployed over Manhattan?
Certainly, ma'am. The opening wave of Hammerdown will see the usage of several B-2 Spirit bombers, carrying payloads of Mark 82 unguided bombs. Each B-2 Spirit, of which 6 have been mobilized, will carry 80 of these bombs in their bomb bays. These bombs and aircraft are already airborne from their base at Whiteman, Missouri, scheduled to arrive over New York City at about 0640 hours. The Mark 82 is a series of conventional high-powered general-purpose bombs, whose employment tonight is designed to weaken the LSA, as well as to flatten structures in Manhattan to make the later use of Earth-penetrating bunker buster weapons more feasible. Bunker buster ordnance, such as the GBU-28 and the GBU-37, will be employed later in the morning. The GBU-28 has a penetration depth of about 106 feet below the surface and can be deployed from F-117 Nighthawk bombers as well as F-15 Eagle fighter jets, which will follow shortly after the initial wave of B-2 bombers. Then, 2 more B-2 bombers, which are being outfitted at Whiteman Air Force Base as we speak, will carry the GBU-37 bunker busters for a follow-up third wave of attacks. Both the GBU-28 and the GBU-37 are laser-guided bombs, the GBU standing for Guided Bomb Unit. They will be targeted at the subway lines which run north to south in Manhattan, and their use this morning will intend to eradicate the HSP creatures which have seemingly made those tunnels home. Finally, a 4th wave of airstrikes will be carried out by a strike package consisting of F-15 Strike Eagles, F-16 Fighting Falcons, and C-130 Hercules aircraft, which will employ Joint Direct Attack Munitions, or JDAMs, as well as Massive Ordnance Air Blasts, or MOABs. The GBU-55 JDAM is equipped with a Mark 83 warhead, containing over 1,000 pounds of high-explosive component, while the MOAB uses a fuel-air combination. These JDAM weapons are designed to enlarge the holes made by the Earth penetrators to ease the job of the MOABs, which come immediately afterward. The MOABs release a combustible prior to detonation, thereby eliminating targets even in enclosed and tight spaces, such as the subway tunnels. By the time all is said and done, these 4 waves of aerial assault will see Midtown and Lower Manhattan reduced to little more than smoldering ruins, both above and below the surface level. I will state again, helicopters will be inbound to evacuate civilians over the course of the next 2 hours. At the commencement of Hammerdown, civil defense sirens will sound as a final warning. If you can hear those sirens, it will mean you are in the target area, and by that point, it will be too late to evacuate. So, we urge everybody to board those helicopters as quickly as possible to make the airlift operation as effective as it can be.
And what if the target area isn't able to be fully evacuated in time? Is there any leeway for the Hammerdown operation to be postponed or delayed to allow civilians to escape?
Absolutely not, ma'am. The strike mission will commence at 0640 hours. If you have not evacuated before that time, no one will be coming to save you. To put it simply, all of Manhattan south of 110th Street has been effectively written off as a total loss both in terms of infrastructure and human lives. We simply cannot allow the LSA to breach containment, nor can we allow the HSPs to spread their range further. Right now, these creatures are limited to the lower and middle portions of the borough of Manhattan, and we intend, at all costs, to keep it that way.
Colonel Newman, thank you for joining us tonight. Colonel Newman is the commanding officer of the New York Air National Guard's 174th Attack Wing, based out of Syracuse. If you are just joining us, Colonel Newman has informed us of the impending Hammerdown protocol, which will see roughly 80% of Manhattan Island razed to the ground, and below the ground even, employing a mix of aircraft and ordnance types, including conventional ordnance, JDAMs, MOABs, and so-called bunker buster bombs. The air raid will commence at 6:40 this morning. If you can hear the air raid sirens, it is too late to evacuate, and there will be no shelter to save you. And so, Colonel Newman urges all people in Midtown and Lower Manhattan to locate your nearest evacuation zone, where helicopters are inbound to airlift people from the target zone. At this time, I myself will be making my way to the roof of our building in order to catch the choppers, which have been sent here for us at the Hudson Square. At this time, a pre-recorded message will play on loop until we can resume our broadcast. This is Kara Wilkins, signing off until later.
This is 1010 WINS serving New York City. The borough of Manhattan is to be carpet bombed by the United States Air Force. When? 6:40 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Where? All of Manhattan south of 110th Street. This includes the entirety of Central Park, Midtown, and Lower Manhattan. Evacuation. Helicopters are inbound to several locations to airlift people from the affected area. Rooftop locations. 1 Grand Central Place, 20 Exchange Place, 1 Wall Street, 30 Rockefeller Plaza, 28 Liberty Street, MetLife Building, 277 Park Avenue, 140 Broadway, General Motors Building, Paramount Plaza, 1 Penn Plaza, 1 Astor Plaza, 1 Liberty Plaza, 55 Water Street, Trump Tower, 60 Wall Street, Morgan Stanley Building, Carnegie Hall Tower, Trump World Tower, 731 Lexington Avenue, Barclay Tower. Ground locations: Union Square Park, West 30th Street Heliport, Washington Square Park, Lincoln Tunnel Heliport, Madison Square Park, Belmont Park Heliport, Bryant Park, Pier 6 Heliport. This message will repeat.
Incident codename Cloverfield. File 4385. 1010 Winds Broadcast. Clip 7. Approximately 0540 on May 23rd, 2008.
You're listening to 1010 Winds. I'm Kara Wilkins, and I've relocated to the studio of our sister station, WTIC in Hartford, Connecticut. We're broadcasting into the greater New York area using transmitters on Long Island. If you are receiving this broadcast and you are in the New York City area, you are likely aware by now of the crisis unfolding in Manhattan. It is just past 5:40 a.m., which means we are roughly 1 hour away from the U.S. Air Force enacting what they call the Hammerdown Protocol, an aerial carpet bombing campaign designed to eliminate the so-called large-scale aggressor, which is terrorizing Midtown Manhattan at the moment. If you are just now joining us, the large-scale aggressor is the military's nickname for a large, 300-foot-tall, quadrupedal creature which emerged from New York Harbor around 5 hours ago. The LSA has caused considerable damage in Manhattan, with many buildings and vital infrastructure destroyed and countless lives lost. The Hammerdown Protocol refers to the planned bombing of Manhattan by the U.S. military, which seeks to kill the LSA and the human-scale parasites, an army of thousands of dog-sized creatures which have fallen off the body of the gigantic LSA, which pose a severe threat to human lives. Joining me over the phone, we have gathered several experts on the subject to discuss the merits and potential drawbacks of the Hammerdown Protocol, beginning with Professor James Anderson, Ph.D. in Marine Biology, Northeastern University. Professor Anderson, tell us what issues you foresee with the military's plan to bomb Manhattan this morning.
Is this even a real question? I can't believe the military is sacrificing an untold number of human lives, on American soil no less, in a misguided attempt to outright kill what could be one of the most fascinating biological specimens ever discovered on planet Earth. As I said earlier, Kira, I think a wiser course of action would be for the military to use its bombs to instead scare the creature away from New York City, by dropping them in the Hudson and East Rivers and in Central Park, to direct it back toward the harbor from whence it came. From there, we should then deploy research vessels to tag the creature with a GPS monitor and track its movements, so that we may perhaps discover where such a fascinating creature may have come from.
We'll turn now to Colonel James Preston of the New York Army National Guard's 42nd Infantry Division. Colonel, you disagree with Professor Anderson, as you've indicated to me. Please tell our listeners why.
Well, I'll share one sentiment with the professor. I can't believe that's a real question either. Countless New Yorkers, American civilians, have died tonight because of this thing. This isn't some fascinating lab experiment. This is a terror set loose on our city, which has caused immense pain and suffering to the people of what used to be one of our greatest cities. The Big Apple is in ruins tonight, and the damage from the monster alone will take years to recover from. That's to say nothing of the HSPs, the human-scale parasites, which have spread throughout Manhattan and are hunting people down like rabid wolves. There's nothing fascinating about this, Professor. It is horrifying. It has caused unseen destruction and death, and this terror must be stopped.
So, Colonel Preston, do you agree with your military colleagues in the U.S. Air Force and the New York Air National Guard that the Hammerdown Protocol is the best way to deal with this beast?
I didn't say that, Kira. I was simply telling the professor how dangerous it is to assert we can do anything other than eradicating the LSA. When it comes to exactly how we do that, I think there are better ways than what our friends at the Pentagon have drawn up tonight. I would start with an encirclement around the creature with ground troops in heavy armor, tanks and the like, and disorient the creature with a torrent of explosive shells. Then, once the LSA is sufficiently contained by ground troops, naval assets off our coast can unleash a missile barrage of Tomahawk land attack guided cruise missiles aimed square at the creature's feet and body in an attempt to cripple it. This will take a level of high-up coordination that we've been so far unable to muster tonight due to the disorganized nature of the military's response. But it can be done if executed at the level of the Joint Chiefs. Once the cruise missiles have taken care of their target, then I'd unleash infantry into the subway tunnels to unleash chemical weapons to subdue the HSPs, which can then be picked off one by one with small arms fire. This is an operation which may take hours to complete, but it would render results effectively and without the large-scale loss of one of America's greatest cities.
You're simply a barbaric man, you know that. What you've said disgusts me to no end. All you jarheads know is shoot and kill. Bomb and kill, kill, kill.
Kira, I'd like to ask that the tree hugger be dismissed.
Please wait for your turn to speak, Professor Anderson. We will take this next point to Colonel Newman of the New York Air National Guard's 174th Attack Wing. Colonel Newman, what do you say in response to your Army National Guard counterpart?
Such an operation as he describes would take hours or maybe even days to accomplish. We cannot afford to lose time. What we must achieve is the swift eradication of all hostile targets in as short of a time frame as possible, so as to spare the other boroughs of the city and the surrounding cities from the same fate that has befallen Manhattan. Manhattan is a loss. The infestation has become too deeply rooted, mainly in regards to the HSPs, which have spread out within the tunnels, which have taken up refuge in the buildings and more. It isn't just the subway tunnels, Colonel Preston. It's the sewers. It's the other underground structures. It's the abandoned buildings in the city. You're going to have to clear every crevice and nook in the city, building by building, block by block, street to street, both above and below the surface level. It just can't be done in a feasible way, even if we do employ the use of chemical weaponry first.
And your preferred course of action is to what? To bomb a major economic hub of our nation back to the Stone Age? You're talking about Wall Street. You're talking about the World Financial Center. You're talking about the headquarters of some of America's largest companies. If the economy wasn't already bad enough, you're talking about measures that would send the entire nation into a downward spiral of poverty. This economic impact alone would take generations to fully recover from, and that's to say nothing of the human cost as well. You're doing an airlift to get people out, and that's great. But not everyone will be able to catch a chopper ride out. In an hour, there are still going to possibly be hundreds of thousands of people, American people, in the affected region. Those are American civilians, Colonel Newman. What precedent does that set for the U.S. military to employ scorched earth tactics on an American city for us to kill an untold number of civilians?
There is no precedent for a giant monster knocking down buildings in downtown Manhattan, Colonel Preston. Tonight is a new night in terms of what we must be willing to do to save our nation. Can you imagine if these things, these parasites, were to leave the New York metro area and spread? We don't even know how many there are currently. Estimates put the number around 2,000. And we don't know how they reproduce or at what speeds their population can swell. We could be looking at apocalyptic conditions across the U.S. Northeast or even beyond if decisive measures are not taken this very instant. Right now, they're fairly contained in an urban environment that provides lots of tight spaces for them to get lost in, and that slows their spread. If these things were to break loose and start roaming the countryside, and especially if they reproduce at considerable speeds, we could be looking at a wave of death as far as St. Louis within weeks or even days.
And how do we verify that all the HSPs are indeed killed after your bombing raids? Either way will require a significant ground campaign in order to make absolutely certain. We may as well skip the part where we erase New York City off the map and try our best to do what we can while there's still something left to save.
There won't be anything left to save without making hard decisions now and quickly. The people of Manhattan will be remembered for their sacrifice.
The people of Manhattan will be remembered for their sacrifice? Are you hearing yourself, Colonel Newman? Over 1.5 million people live in Manhattan.
Many of them have already been airlifted out, and besides, there won't be any people living in Manhattan after the HSPs have run ravage over the whole island.
There won't be people living there after you bomb the hell out of the island either. The inhumanity of this plan shocks and stuns me. I took an oath to serve my country and its people, not to destroy my country and kill its people.
Would you rather these creatures inflict these casualties across America, or would you like us to simply put these poor folks out of their misery?
They aren't a sick dog, Colonel Newman. These are living, breathing Americans with lives and dreams, and they work to support this nation we call home. To repay them with aerial bombardment at the hands of their own government is something that should sicken us. It sickens me. It should sicken you.
If I may add something to the discussion, gentlemen.
No!
Incident codename Cloverfield, file 4386, 1010 Winds broadcast, clip 8, approximately 0642 on May 23, 2008.
We've just received word that the civil defense sirens are now sounding in Manhattan. We have a broadcast from our CBS affiliates at the CBS Broadcast Center. The broadcast center has been fully evacuated, but they were able to set up open microphones on the rooftop to capture the audio we're about to listen to. This audio is being brought to you from our CBS television affiliates at WCBS-TV, Studio 47 in Hell's Kitchen, Midtown Manhattan, not far from the last reported location of the LSA. Again, the CBS Broadcast Center is currently empty, its staff having vacated on military helicopters a short time ago. What we're about to hear is live being broadcasted from microphones atop the roof of that building. Let's listen. We now seem to have lost our audio feed, presumably from the destruction of the CBS Broadcast Center building as part of the military's Hammerdown protocol. We'll run this audio again in a moment, but you could hear in it the air raid sirens, gunfire, the military aircraft flying around, and you could even make out the sounds of the B-2 bombers as they flew overhead to drop what we're told were a payload of hundreds of conventional bombs across Lower and Midtown Manhattan. You could hear the LSA itself walking around and screaming as it was hit by these bombs. Finally, it seems you could hear the destruction of the CBS Broadcast Center as it crumbled to the ground, ultimately resulting in our signal loss. This was, we're told, only the opening wave of the Hammerdown protocol, which we've been informed will consist of at least 4 air raids to blanket Manhattan with a variety of high explosive munitions. This is our final live audio out of Manhattan. Lower Manhattan and Midtown are, it seems, no longer in existence. We do not know how many people were still present in these regions of Manhattan at the time the bombing raids commenced.
Incident codename Cloverfield, file 4387, 1010 Winds broadcast, clip 9, approximately 07:53 on May 23, 2008.
You're listening to 1010 Winds, broadcasting temporarily from Hartford, Connecticut into the New York metro area via transmitters on Long Island. It has been about 1 hour and 10 minutes since the U.S. Air Force commenced its Hammerdown protocol, which saw 4 waves of airstrikes across Manhattan using a variety of conventional and specialized munitions. Notably, according to our military sources, nuclear weapons have not been used and are being reserved as an absolute last resort option. That being said, little of Manhattan below 110th Street survives at this hour. We are just about 15 minutes past the 4th wave of aerial bombardment, which saw the use of MOAB weapons. That's Massive Ordnance Air Blast, sometimes known by its nickname, the mother of all bombs, which were used to neutralize both the surface and subsurface levels. Bunker buster munitions punctured through the ground into the subway tunnels below, and the MOABs followed to deliver concussive blows inside the tunnels in order to eliminate the human-scale parasites which have run rampant through the city. The efficacy of the Hammerdown protocol has been debated, and we're awaiting a preliminary battle damage assessment from the Air Force to determine whether the operation yielded successful results. We have on the phone with us Colonel Owen Newman of the New York Air National Guard. We spoke with Colonel Newman earlier this morning about the operation plan for Hammerdown, and he joins us again post-operation to deliver reports that he's been hearing from the officers under his command. Colonel Newman, what developments do you have to report for us?
Good morning, Kira. The lower 3/4 of Manhattan are obscured by a blanket of thick black smoke right now. We have helicopters flying over the island now to get eyes on the primary target, the large-scale aggressor. So far, it has not been spotted, but it's likely down there under the smoke clouds. We'll know more once the smoke begins to clear, but I can say at this time that the Hammerdown protocol does seem to have succeeded in the objective of puncturing the surface into the subway tunnels below, where the thermobark weapons were able to fall through and explode beneath the surface. We'll know more once we get ground forces into the former subway system to get eyes on the objective. However, I can't imagine much has survived down there. I'm working with Colonel Preston of the 42nd Infantry Division, with whom I spoke on air earlier, and he has assured me that his men are en route to enter the subway tunnels as we speak. We should know more shortly from our assets both in the air and on the ground. At this time, I'd like to hand things over to one of the men under my command, Warrant Officer Thomas Riley, who is presently flying over New York City on a Pavehawk helicopter. Warrant Officer Riley, confirm communication.
Affirmative, sir. I read you loud and clear.
Report present status. What can you see on the ground?
I have eyes on blocks upon blocks of rubble, sir. Lots of smoke rising up from scattered fires, too. It reminds me of seeing aerial shots from Ground Zero after 9/11. Except this time it's a hell of a lot bigger. Instead of one city block, it's Well, it's hundreds of city blocks, sir. As far as the eye can see, it's just twisted steel and concrete rubble. I'd say our airmen did a hell of a job with the air raid. My God, this must be what the cities in World War II looked like. Total and utter destruction. That's what I see, sir.
Do you have eyes on the body of the large-scale aggressor?
Nope, that's a negative. Not yet, Colonel. It could be down there, but the smoke is a bit thick to see much in detail, sir.
LSA's last known location was just north of Columbus Circle and just east of 62nd Street, within the area formerly known as Central Park. Fly over and report.
Roger that, Colonel. My present position is over former Central Park at about 80th Street. We're flying past the former site of Hayden Planetarium. The location you mention is dead ahead of us. I see a clearing there. In fact, there is still some grass visible, but no confirmed sighting of the LSA so far.
Continue on your present flight path southward towards former Times Square. Report contact. If negative, continue along Broadway.
Yes, sir. We're passing over the last known location of the LSA now, 62nd Street and 8th Avenue, confirming negative contact. Continuing to locate Times Square, navigation is difficult due to smoke and rubble. I can barely see the streets below. We're navigating mostly via GPS.
You say negative contact at the last known position.
Affirmative, sir. That's negative contact. No sighting of LSA or identifiable remains at that location.
Fly a loop at low altitude around Columbus Circle and double check. Report contact status.
That's a confirmed negatory, sir. There's nothing here but structural remains. No biological remains at present position. Negative contact on LSA.
Continue on Broadway flight path southbound, heading 150 toward former location, Times Square.
Wilco, moving on. Got eyes on Times Square up ahead. Fires are burning bright, smoke plumes are rising thick. Thermal imaging is active. We've got no sighting of anything warm. A creature that big would generate immense levels of body heat. If it's been neutralized, it wouldn't be cold just yet. We should have seen something by now, but all we see are flames and smoke. Oh, there's pockets of red on the thermal, but nothing near the size of the LSA. It's just fires down there.
Roger that. Continue on present, heading southbound towards Union Square.
There is something showing in the distance, but the smoke is obscuring thermals too much to get a solid confirmation.
Any other means of visual confirmation?
Negative, sir. There's too much smoke. We're getting a decent breeze now. Smoke is starting to clear. We'll check thermals again. Audible contact, unknown origin. Possibly LSA? Closer approach necessary for confirmation.
Proceed with caution.
Roger that. Checking thermals again. There's something up ahead. Thermals are showing a bright white-orange ahead in the region formerly known as Soho. LSA should not be at this location, but thermals are showing a large glow there.
Report visuals.
Thermals show movement. Target is on the move. Repeat, target is on the move. Once we clear this smoke plume, we'll have visuals. Thermals are showing a large, warm object moving westward towards the Hudson.
Pursue movement from a distance. Confirm visually.
Visual confirmation of LSA at our 1 o'clock. It's still alive, sir. Repeat, LSA still alive. Positive contact. Confirmed via thermals and visuals. Awaiting orders, sir.
Track and pursue. Report status of target.
Closer visual inspection of LSA shows large bleeding wounds across its back and forearms. LSA is mobile, but its manner of movement is janky? It appears to be badly injured, but still very much alive.
What is it doing? Does it appear to be an active threat?
Well, it appears to have spotted us, and it is now running away. It runs in a stumbling, lurching sort of manner. It's heading straight for the Hudson River.
Kira, it appears the LSA is indeed still alive, according to Airborne Eyes Over Manhattan. Its location is the former Soho neighborhood, heading for the Hudson River.
Is there a further course of action planned, Colonel?
It does not appear to be an active threat at this time, Kira. LSA is heavily wounded and seeking to regulate itself in the water. We'll continue tracking it, but there is no other action planned at present.
LSA is now in the Hudson and swimming southward towards New York Harbor. Thermals show cooling of the body, possibly metabolic temperature regulation? I think its injuries caused it to overheat and it's now retreating from the city.
Kira, the LSA is alive, but the threat it posed appears to have been neutralized. We're tracking it in the New York Harbor now, and it appears to be seabound once more. I have to go and notify the Coast Guard and have them get a tracking operation underway before we lose the target. Kira, that's all I have for now.
Alright, for those listening, that was Colonel Owen Newman of the New York Air National Guard. Sources within the Air National Guard have been tracking the large creature known as the large-scale aggressor, which had spent the past several hours ravaging portions of Manhattan. The U.S. Air Force enacted an operation known as Hammerdown in order to eliminate the threat. That operation seems to have yielded mixed results, with the LSA in a crippled and injured state at present, but still alive. We'll be checking in with the U.S. Coast Guard later as they continue to track the LSA, which appears to be heading back out to sea, where it apparently came from. This is 1010 Winds reporting on the aftermath of the Hammerdown Protocol and the status of the LSA. For now, the shelter-in-place order for the 5 boroughs of New York is still in effect, but we will inform you as soon as that changes. We'll have more to come later as the situation develops. This is Kara Wilkins reporting for 1010 Winds.
Incident codename Cloverfield, file 4388, 1010 Winds broadcast, clip 10, approximately 11:05 on May 25th, 2008.
You're listening to 1010 Winds. It's just past 11 a.m. currently on Sunday, May 25th. I'm Alex Armstrong, reporting live from the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Campbell. It has been about 2.5 days since a gigantic creature, known to the military as the large-scale aggressor, began its tour of destruction through Manhattan. At about 7 o'clock Friday morning, the LSA was reportedly wounded severely by a U.S. Air Force bombing raid, which destroyed most of Lower Manhattan and Midtown. Following aerial bombings, the LSA retreated back out to sea, where it was successfully tagged with a harpoon-mounted GPS monitor by the United States Coast Guard. I'm on the cutter Campbell right now, which is one of 3 Coast Guard ships presently tracking the LSA alongside 3 U.S. Navy destroyers. That's the situation as it currently stands, Kara.
I'm Kara Wilkins reporting live from our temporary studio space in Brooklyn, and you're listening to 1010 Winds. Our field reporter Alex Armstrong is at sea on the U.S. Coast Guard ship, which is tracking the LSA on its return to the deep ocean. Alex, tell us, what is your present location?
We're about 750 miles due east of New York, Kira, or about 350 miles southeast of Halifax, Nova Scotia. The LSA began a deep dive at about 30 minutes ago after swimming at a constant depth for the past 25 hours. We're not sure what this means, but the GPS monitor can only track it for so much longer before the water pressure destroys the device. The LSA's current depth is about 0.9 miles, or approximately 5,000 feet below sea level, descending at a rate of approximately 200 feet per minute. We're told by our sources in the Coast Guard that the tracking device can withstand a depth of about 10,000 feet, or roughly 1.9 miles below sea level. After that point, it's likely the LSA will be lost to us.
You're nearing waters that have been declared a sensitive area by the Japanese government. Is there any concern that you may be asked to cease your pursuit at any point soon?
Well, that's right, Kira. and that's something which the crew of the Campbell has been telling me about. We're not far off from the site of the destroyed Chuai Station deep-sea drilling rig, which has a 50-mile exclusion zone around it, enforced by the Japanese government. Coincidentally, that does appear to be where the LSA may be heading towards, as it continues its dive deeper into the ocean.
That's a drilling rig formerly operated by the Tagruato Corporation, isn't it?
That's correct, Kira. The Chuai Station drilling rig was operated by Tagruato before it was destroyed in an apparent terror attack by an environmental activist group known as Tidal Wave, or the Wave for short.
If you'll excuse me, Alex, I'd like to make a phone call. We'll be back after these short messages.
Feeling down? Has the world got you beat? Need a pick-me-up? Try out a cold, refreshing beverage. Available in 5 tongue-popping flavors, Slusho is certain to wake up your brain and buzz your taste buds. Featuring a patented, energy-inducing formula, Slusho is sure to be just the thing you need in a dull world. Slusho is available at 7-Eleven and Circle K stores nationwide. So addicting, you can't drink just 6. Slusho is a trademark product of Tagruato Corporation, Kyushu, Japan, copyright 2008. Yippee!
We're back. You're listening to 1010 Wins. I'm Kira Wilkins. Joining us on the phone, once again, is Kaito Tanaka, a spokesman for the Tagruato Corporation based out of Japan. Mr. Tanaka, I'd like to ask you about the recent events in New York City. This all began with the creature, the LSA as it's been called, attacking one of your oil tankers in New York Harbor. However, the United States Environmental Protection Agency confirmed that no oil spill took place from your sunken vessel. Now, it appears the LSA, having returned to sea, is making a beeline right for the seabed, coincidentally, near the site of your company's former Chuai Station deep-sea drilling rig. What I'd like to ask you, Mr. Tanaka, is this. Is there any possibility that the Chuai Station rig and the Mizumi Maru tanker were intended for something other than oil? Was the Mizumi Maru really where this all began? Or was the incident at Chuai Station perhaps the start of these events? Mr. Tanaka?
I am not at the liberty to disclose any information in regards to the events in New York City. I am saddened though by your losses, but I cannot say anything further.
And why is that, Mr. Tanaka?
The incident is presently a matter of investigation.
Yes, indeed it is. An investigation which has your company under scrutiny by your government. Is that correct?
I apologize, Miss Kira, but I cannot start at this time anything which may interfere with that investigation.
Are you able to categorically deny that the Tagruato Corporation was drilling for something other than oil?
I cannot comment.
Are you able to deny your company's involvement in these events which transpired in New York City?
I cannot comment.
Why is that, Mr. Tanaka? Surely it must be easy to deny that your company was related to these events. No? You had no problem denying involvement just the other day.
The events in New York City are the subject of an ongoing investigation.
What was Chuai Station really drilling for? What cargo did the Mizumi Maru tanker actually carry?
I cannot say. I am legally bound pending the outcome of the investigation.
You're bound to not lie, is that right? Because you don't want to make things worse for yourself. Because your company is complicit in some way. Is that right, Mr. Tanaka?
I cannot confirm nor deny the involvement of the Tagruato Corporation.
I think you just did. You see, Tagruato's U.S. subsidiaries are presently under investigation by the United States Department of Justice. according to an anonymous whistleblower within the company. That's why you were not able to comment directly on the situation in New York City. Is that right, Mr. Tanaka?
I am done with this conversation. I will not comment further.
You'll see me in court. Is that what you were about to say? That's funny. You can't sue people for telling the truth, and that's why you stopped yourself. Goodbye, Mr. Tanaka. We'll see how this all plays out. Coming up at noon, a 1010 Wins exclusive special report. What is the seabed's nectar? The mysterious substance has been linked to the Chihuahua Station drilling platform, according to an anonymous source blowing the whistle from within the Tagruato Corporation. Perhaps you've even been drinking it. More on this at noon. This is 1010 Wins. I'm Kara Wilkins.
Thank you for watching a Zenith Media Group production. If you enjoyed this, please consider supporting us on Ko-fi. Don't forget to subscribe and consider sharing our work with a friend to grow our audience.